All righty. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on another episode of Extreme Health Radio. Happy to be with you guys. This is going to be a great show. Happy Wednesday, the old hump day. I hope you guys are having a great week wherever you are listening to this. And I found out from the chat room that a lot of people listen during their working time. So I hope we're not distracting you from your work, but hopefully it's a good distraction. So for all of you guys that are watching on Dr. John Bergman's YouTube channel, welcome. You're probably wondering who we are and why we're here and what the heck this is all about. But we broadcast 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So if you guys want to join the live show, you can always subscribe to Dr. John Bergman or subscribe to our channel. And that way you can keep up to date with all the shows that we have going on. And speaking of all of the shows, let me bring up some of the shows that we have happening here pretty soon. It's going to be really, really cool. We've got shows, like I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Let me see if I can pull this up here. A lot going on here with Extreme Health Radio. Let's see here. If you're watching on the screen, you can probably see our show schedule tomorrow. Actually, this is going to be this Friday. We're going to be talking with Brandon Amalani about EMF mitigation strategies, so that should be really good. Monday right now is a doubleheader. We'll be talking with Nathan Walls about why light is more important than food. Interesting, right? And then we're going to talk with JB Hanley, whose son had, or I guess still has autism, but we'll be talking with him. He's a new author of a great book, and we'll be talking with him about vaccines and autism. Then next Wednesday, we're going to be talking to the makers or the inventors of this new device called the AMP coil, which is sort of a combination between PEMF therapy and Rife technology. So a lot of cool stuff happening on Extreme Health Radio. And today, this is going to be fun. We have Yarrow Willard, and I was just telling him before the show how I found him. A while back, I was learning how to make medicinal mushrooms, and I was working with chaga and reishi and some herbs like that. And I was looking around YouTube trying to figure out, how to do this stuff, how to make tinctures, how to make decoctions. And I stumbled across this crazy guy from up north, and I figured, we got to have this guy on the show. He's super, super into what he's doing, and that's what we love here. So that's how I found Yarrow, and he's got a website, yarrowwillard.com, as well as harmonicarts.com. We'll be talking about that. He's a second-generation herbalist, philosopher, health activist, nature enthusiast. He's on Instagram, I think, as the Herbal Jedi, and we follow him on there, and he's always posting some cool stuff. He lives in the, I'm not sure how to say this, Comox First Nation territory on the west coast of Canada. So he's doing his work up there, and let me just bring his audio up and bring him on the show. Here we go. Yarrow, man, thanks for coming on the show. Super excited to have you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Really stoked to be here. Just honored to be sharing with your community anything I can around health resilience and connecting with the natural world and how to empower ourselves better.
Yeah, totally. So you were saying before the show that you are a second generation herbalist. So did you say your father was an herbalist as well?
Yeah, I kind of come by that naturally. The tree doesn't fall too far from the other tree, or
Right.
that way. Yeah, my dad is Dr. Terry Willard. He created a herbal detox and a whole herbal school online, and has been working with plant medicine since the early 70s. Taught thousands of people how to become herbalists, and I was one of those. And I've really just kind of grown my own roots here on the West Coast, really studying medicinal mushrooms and connecting deeper with health alignment through working with many of these plant allies as my path over the last 20 years since I graduated.
Wow, that's crazy. So when you were growing up, at what point in your growing up life did your dad get into herbalism, or was he into that at the very beginning?
He was into that right off the bat, right in the beginning years of working with plant medicine when I was a kid.
Okay. Are those your dogs? I love dogs.
Sorry, yeah, my dog got somebody here, but that's okay. No worries. I just like to say hello. I got a couple of big dogs. We get out in the forest a lot. It's a big opportunity for me to do more forest bathing and more connecting with the natural world. Is just hanging out with my animals. They got to get out, and so do I.
Man, I love that. So, do you live in the forest, or is that kind of where your house is, or you can get there really easily?
Well, I moved to this little town because it's amazing. It has what I call the 100-acre woods, which is pretty much a forest that's been protected from logging. That's full of bike trails and hiking trails, and is second growth and the closest thing to old growth forest here on the island. within a small town where there's like 3,000 people. So really nice space. We got a pretty good sized yard, nice garden, lots of plants and herbs around here. And there's a lot of farms in this community, but really getting out of the 100-acre woods is my jam.
Oh my gosh, how nice is that? And so, do you do that every day?
Pretty much, I make a pact every time this time of year to do a 40-day mushroom challenge, which means I try to insert wild medicinals or edibles into my diet for the whole fall season. And that usually starts early September and goes till the end of October.
Oh my gosh, do you wild pick all those herbs, or do you have them sent to you, or how do you procure them?
No. I mean, mostly it's mushrooms in this season. And yeah, I pick them all myself. We tend to live in a part of the world where there's an abundance. Plus, making this challenge for myself allows me to like have to be really proactive. I mean, yesterday we picked a basket full of lobster mushrooms that was huge. It was probably, I don't know, about 50 to 60 lobster mushrooms. It's more than we're going to be able to eat for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Yarrow, don't you know that you might die if you pick the wrong mushroom? I mean, what's wrong with you?
When we first moved here, that's what my wife thought. She's like, You're going to kill us. You're going to, like, I'm not eating anything you pick in the forest. But there's something called mycophobia, which is fear of mushrooms. And a lot of us have this because they're not like plants where we see them all the time regularly. We build a relationship with them. The mushrooms just pop up in the middle of the night, like other things.
Yeah.
But what they do offer is this unique kind of experience when you get out and find them. It's like Easter egg hunting. And to me, that is as much fun once you get to know them. They're really easy to find a few really good mushrooms to start working with. So my recommendation is like look for 3 to 4 that are easy to identify in your first few seasons. And over the course of 4 or 5 years, just add 1 or 2 on every year, and pretty soon you've got a dozen mushrooms you can find in your local woods.
I was doing some hiking with my dog a while back, probably about a year ago, and there's a mushroom that it looked to me very similar to reishi. And people that are watching, if you're into herbalism and into medicinal mushrooms, you know what a reishi looks like. But the only thing that it didn't look like, it was really light colored. So it looked just like the patterns of reishi, but it was like a blonde version of a reishi. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that mushroom.
Was that reishi or was that something else, do you think?
So that's called a Ganoderma applanatum, an artist conch, and it's in the reishi family. Reishi is Ganoderma lucidium.
Okay.
And that's a mushroom. That's the mushroom of immortality or meditation in a bottle, right, from the Chinese medicine system. But the Ganoderma applanatum is a perennial mushroom that stays all year long. The lucidium, which your traditional reishi is an annual mushroom. And in China, there's a lot of studies and a lot of revere around that applanatum as well.
Can you say the name of that? I'm going to pull that up on Google Images so people can see what it looks like.
Ganoderma is the Latin name, which is shiny skin, is really what that means. And then applanatum.
I see. Okay. Let me show people what I'm talking about here. Yeah, that's exactly what this was. It was like a light version. Let me bring this up on the screen so you can see it. It's like a light version of a reishi. So there's nothing, my wife was like asking me, she's our co-host, but she was asking me, are you sure it's okay? Are you sure it's okay? And it looks just like reishi. And so we kind of didn't do anything with it, but I wonder if we should go back and pick that.
Well, it is a perennial, so it'll keep growing throughout the years. And my recommendation is never pick the first mushroom you see. Look on that same tree for multiples or a tree that's fallen down near it, and there might be 5 or 6. You find 5 or 6, pick one of them for sure.
Okay.
This is a medicinal mushroom. The name artist conch really is because you can do art on it with a feather. You just imprint it with a nail or a feather or a rock, and it stays there forever. I've done some beautiful ones into signage and just kind of setting intention on the backside of those mushrooms. But it is a medicinal mushroom, and you can cook it up just like a reishi. My recommendation is you slice it into small, thin slices, and you do what's called a decoction, which is a light simmer, that double boil in trouble, ear of mushroom, eye of mushroom, and wing of other kind of reishi mushroom.
Oh man, that reminds me of that movie in the 80s, Clash of the Titans. The way you're saying that. So it's interesting. So you get out in the wilderness almost every single day, and I think that there's something beautiful about that, isn't there? I mean, there's like this whole thing called forest bathing, getting away from nature or from technology and EMF, and gosh, we all need more of that, don't we?
Well, we definitely do. And one of the things that maybe to inspire people to do forest bathing a little more is obviously, as you just mentioned, getting away from the EMF and the technology and just getting back into our own body, into our own sense. This is our superpower, is originality, creativity, flow of connection, of communication from divine, transmuted through us into something of value, right? That's one of our superpowers. And it's hard to access that when we are in the technosphere in that sense, in cities with right angles. There's no symbiotic geometries that bring us into a better flow. Plus, I guess the biggest thing that I like to share with people around forest bathing is you start to activate different sensory perception that you just can't get when you're in a beta wave thinking, future forecasting mode. And those are things about like internally understanding how your body is feeling and experiencing things, understanding how you show up in space and time and your proprioceptive behavior patterns, understanding heart math and heart mind, and also this mental body. Like we start to gain better perceptive tools into unlocking our own sensory perception at a deeper, more profound level, which is where that transmission from the divine starts to come in and create through us.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree with you more. You just mentioned something that I've learned about for years. Haven't really studied it too much, but you're the first person in 615 shows to mention this. And you're talking about right angles, and how, in my opinion, and it seems to be true, at least with how I feel about being inside, square boxes and everything does have a right angle on it. How does the shape of where we are? Because if you go into nature, there's no like smooth metal objects, or there's no right angles. Like, in nature, everything's curved and flowing, whether it's a branch or a tree or anything, right? So this right angle stuff, talk a little bit more about that. It's interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, even I'll give an example of like it's conflicting, right? They're opposing forces. One's coming at the other one instead of it's almost a business analogy would be one person who's playing the long game, who really wants to support the whole community of business. Another person who's playing to win, right angle, playing to win, playing to win. They keep hitting against this long game and they're not effective. So there's a bit of a, I'll call it just like internally when we visually see that, the right angles, it's a bit conflictual.
Okay.
Most of the natural world, the geometries of it are in more triangle or dodecahedronal, or pentagonal shapes. So very much simple, easy on the eyes, and then therefore flow with less conflict when we process them. This is just visually even.
Yeah, that's interesting. And when we're in a room that has a lot of right angles, artificial angles and stuff like that, I imagine it affects our ability to probably think outside the box, if you will, or maybe dream a little bit more, or like you said, reconnect with kind of your own intuition. Like all of these things are probably happening at some weird subconscious ethereal level, but we just don't know about it. But it's probably all happening, right?
Yeah, and it's, the old concept of neurons that fire together, wire together. You look at a lot of right angles, you start thinking in right angles. You start thinking in these opposing forces versus in these complementary forces, So even this, like behind me is all these plants. Well, on the screen that you're looking at right now, it's still pixelated in right angles. Even though it looks like what it would in nature, it's important for the actual eyes to directly make that link and that contact, right?
Yeah.
So we can't just look at nature on TV either. I think we're doing it.
It is interesting though. They've done studies where, they put, windows in hospitals, and all of a sudden the people start healing better. And that's probably not even windows to a forest, probably just windows to, cityscape or something like that. But it is interesting how this idea of being connected to nature just has an impact on the body in so many ways we probably don't even realize.
It's, I think, probably the number one thing we can do to heal this planet. We suffer from something beyond all of our irritable bowel and cancer and attention deficit disorder, and it's really nature deficit disorder. As a epigenetic unfoldment of this human manifest in the current paradigm, we've had thousands of generations which were tuned to this kind of frequency. And now 2-3 generations later, we're closing down epigenetically to even those awareness practices that our body naturally knows and can access.
Yeah, yeah. And also, it seems like when you're inside, it seems like you're more apt to think in terms of black and white and right and wrong instead of flow and ebb, and,
Yeah.
like there's a guy who's on our show a lot. He wrote a book called Yes, No, Maybe. And so the concept of the book is like, it's not yes or no. It's, there's a maybe option here. And so when you're inside, it seems like because everything is delineated and separated by, paint and lines and right angles, like you tend to think one thing stops and another thing starts. Whereas in nature, everything sort of just flows together.
Well, totally. The idea of survival of the fittest is all backwards and really about humanity's layering an imprint on that. It's actually survival of the most complementary, the one that can adapt the best to work with the community, to work in coherence with the other organisms, because none are able to survive on their own. We need each other. This planet is growing. People too who are wakening up to this, because that's part of the planet's like mission to heal itself, is, hey, these people are intelligent. Let's wake them up to the fact that they actually are part of this whole system, and they will help work on this. So I'm not as afraid of the doomsday as some people, because I think we're growing the right kind of people right now, right here on planet Earth.
Yeah, it would make sense, right? That, why would the planet Earth or God or nature or whatever, someone wants to call it, why would they create human beings that would destroy it, So obviously there's going to be people that are going to help save the planet and save the Earth and continue this whole existence. And I think it was cool what you were saying about looking at like the whole sort of panoply of life as one organism, and the Earth is a living organism, and we are living organisms on the Earth. So ultimately we're all connected. And when you work with plants and you work outside a lot, it's probably something that just comes naturally to think like that. But when you're sitting in an office, probably not so much,
Yeah, yeah. I think the more people spend outside, the more they get curious, the more they get fun comfortable, as we call it. That kind of fun comfortable is like they're not sure how to fit in outside, but they start to play with and test their own boundaries. And this is what grows people into wanting to work with plant medicine, into being curious about these mushrooms that are in the forest there, into just spending time breathing that deep, fresh air. So I really would encourage that. Doesn't matter what health issue you might be facing yourself, get outside for a regular regime of walking and in silence, not to get somewhere. The point is to slow your rhythm down to be able to feel into the rhythm of the other organisms around you.
Yeah, gosh, you know what I see so much these days of all these like online trackers. You see these things like how to track your blood sugar, how to track how many steps you take, and you know what I mean? It's interesting on one hand because it's kind of nice to know, but then it kind of plays into that sort of right brain, way of thinking of tracking everything and logging everything. And instead of doing what you were just talking about, why not just go for a walk just for the hell of it? Just go for a walk, enjoy, and just be with what you're seeing and hearing and smelling and all of that. Like that kind of philosophy is completely opposite this technological track everything you do kind of thing,
Yeah, there's two things that come up there for me. One is when you do go for a walk, get off the path a little bit and kind of aimlessly, without direction, just kind of feel into and observe the forest. Wow, look at those logs. Check out that moss. Just whatever catches your attention, just be present. Presence is more important. And the problem with the trackers is they actually take you out of presence, because you're thinking about, oh, I can't wait till I get to that next marker. And then rather than that even being an accomplishment, it's just a quick light dopamine hit, which has you addicted to more trackers and more beeps and more buzzers that make you feel justified and keep you high on dopamine all day rather than actually present.
Yeah. And I think also what they do too is they sort of disconnect you from your own innate ability to sort of be happy. So like if you were going to say, if you wanted to take 10,000 steps a day and you're one of these kind of people, and you wouldn't be happy until you did that. So in order to do that, you need to either count or have a tracker. But I think that when you start relying on these tools to be happy because you have some sort of result, it's like a blood test, like if you use these tools to rely on something, why not just go within yourself and learn how to be happy if you take 9,000 or 11,000, it's the same thing, right? It's like,
oh, totally. And it's not the tool itself. The tool is generally neutral in its opinion of what to do with itself. but it is that adaptive mindset that we're trying to accomplish, always trying to do.
Uh-huh.
There's a real trick in waxing on and then waxing off and
Yeah.
really receiving. And part of that is going out into the natural world and not trying to do.
Uh-huh.
That's a huge benefit to the whole overall psyche of the human if we can receive a little bit in that really gentle, nurturing format.
So true. So with your life now, how much time do you spend outside? How much time do you spend doing what you're doing? Because I notice you do a lot of YouTube videos outside as well. So you're bringing some aspect of technology. But that's the beautiful thing about living in today's world, is that we can sort of marry the two, as long as we keep, the technology side at bay and not let it overtake us. But with your life now, are you constantly trying to figure out ways to spend even more time outside and less in front of a computer?
Yeah, I mean, I find that it's constantly easy to connect back into screen time. There's always something to do. You can keep yourself pretty extremely busy, even if you think you're doing good work. Like I know for myself, just answering questions, doing emails, getting on calls, there's a lot of opportunity to get lost in the netherverse, as I'll call it.
Yeah.
So it is a force of habit. Even after years of spending a lot of time outside, it's like, whoa, okay, I actually have to sit down and plan this and put it into my schedule. You are going outside for this amount of time today. Sometimes it's just a walk around the yard, even just in between things. Other times it's a full-on walk. My dogs need to walk every day. So me and my partner, we've got an hour committed to get these dogs out.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
that's a piece. Having a pet like that requires you to go outside kind of forces you into that path a little more deep.
It totally does. Yeah, we have two little dogs, and we get them out every single day. And it's a good kick in the butt sometimes when you don't want to go outside or you don't want to get exercise or do whatever. These little beings are relying on you. And so, with your work with herbalism, I got obviously stumbled onto your work through medicinal mushrooms and chaga and making teas and stuff. Do you focus on any one area, or are you just sort of bringing herbs as well as medicinal mushrooms into your life? What's your focus, if you had one?
I would say, two focuses. One is definitely on medicinal mushrooms. I think the power of these medicinal mushrooms to really align with our health path is profound. And there is a ton of studies, a lot of results from people who have worked with them. So that's a big piece of my path. But the other one is, I think of it really as I am attempting to be a delivery system for plant medicine to hook into people's consciousness and find a way to grow in that sense so that we grow more herbalists. So I have a company that carries all kinds of delivery systems, basically syrups, tinctures, teas, powdered extracts, and elixir blends. And I share on those and how to make like herbal tonic drinks and fortify the body that way. But also just the delivery system of YouTube and the delivery system of talks like this or in-person talks is really what my main focus is how do I help grow this plant path and deepen people's connection to the natural world.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like one of those things where you start realizing that the more and more people work with plants and medicinal mushrooms and understand their power, it's like it's not necessarily that, but it's who they become as a result and how they affect the rest of the planet, right? Because like you start realizing when people start doing that, then they become just better people. They become people that are more motivated, more helpful, more loving, more nurturing to the planet, to each other. It's weird how it does that, right? Working with these plants changes you.
Oh, totally. And that's my jam. When I see somebody who's been working with some of these and like they're just lit up and they're vibrant, and I know that they're vibrating that same energy to everyone they meet, everyone they connect with, and that's so I would like to think of myself more as a generalist because I'm not here to solve anyone's problems. I'm not here to take on anyone's problems. It's really just to inspire them with a couple of little brain hooks to start to look deeper at how they can be that resilient and beautiful being that they already are. They're already powerful. Right. These plants are teachers that can help us kind of grow that power internally. But that's up to us. It's not anyone else to hold that for us, right?
Yeah, so true. Now, when I first got into mushrooms, I first got into health in 2003, and I started learning about juicing. Remember Jay Kordich, the juice man? He was
Yeah.
he was, he was such an awesome teacher, and I went through all of his like cassette tapes and listened to all of his recipes and stuff. And then I got into the work of David Wolfe, and as a result of him, I started learning about medicinal mushrooms and the power of these things. And then when you start realizing like how much more powerful, in my opinion, medicinal mushrooms are than something like a green juice. Although green juices are incredible in their own way, you start realizing, like putting some importance on the mushroom side of life in the kingdom of mushrooms and fungi. And when I started learning about that and what they do for the body, it's like you almost like your mind just blows, right? It's
Yeah. Just boom.
yeah, it's
Well,
unreal.
I mean, like the biggest kind of fact that is worth noting on mushrooms is, well, two. One is most pharmaceuticals that we consume in the modern world were originally, the chemistry in them was derived from mushrooms, including statin drugs are straight up from oyster mushrooms. But the other piece is that we share similar DNA. We share much more close DNA to mushrooms and the fungal kingdom. In fact, we're evolved out of that kingdom than we do to plants. So this world of fungi, at least the ennobled ones, the higher evolved tree-eating mushrooms, they have a lot of intelligence and a lot of strategy to share with our bodies on how to show up more resilient and have an immune system that functions much more appropriately to the environment and the pathogens that we're around. And so that's a key piece to health evolution in a kind of frictional time in history. It's like, how do we show up more resilient? How do we build a stronger moat, protect the walls, and then also share in a way that is healthy with our environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mushrooms are so important. And part of my life, I take mushrooms every single day in multiple different forms. I'm sure you do too. And it's just been a part of my staple, been part of my practice, for the past 10 or 15 years. Yeah.
I got a mushroom hot chocolate right here.
Look at that. What's in that?
Oh, well, it's really just a cacao and then a reishi, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, and turkey tail mushrooms. So 5 of the top medicinal mushrooms. But chocolate's a great delivery system for mushrooms. So is coffee, by the way. If people are coffee drinkers, I'm not recommending or saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's a delivery system that you can add the medicinal mushrooms into to get them in your body on a regular basis.
Yeah, man. I used to do a lot of green juices and smoothies. I still do green juices a few times a week, probably 3 or 4 times a week if I can. But mushrooms I do every single day. And what I love about it is I combine the coffee with the chocolate with a ton of different mushroom powders and tinctures. Man, it tastes so good. It's so good.
Totally. It actually just goes right with that kind of flavor. They have a slightly umami flavor. They're kind of roasted coffee-like already. And so they kind of go with chocolate and coffee just perfectly. I've been enjoying making mushroom chocolate bars. I've been enjoying making what we call these elixirs, which are adding in either like a golden milk, turmeric kind of base, and then turkey tail we put in that one, or a like chocolate superfood mesquite kind of one, and adding in cordyceps and reishi. Or some kind of anti-inflammatory drink, and we'll add in chaga. So we like to just layer these in with hot drinks as a perfect medium for giving people mushrooms.
Yeah. What kind of base do you use? Like an almond milk, or do you coconut milk kind of thing? What do you use there?
Yeah. So it depends on what we're doing. Either a tea base and then add some kind of fat to that and blend it up, sort of like the butterproof coffee you might have heard of.
Yeah.
but that kind of like fattened drink that's hot, or do like a warmed up almond milk. I mean, I prefer the coconut milk, but truly I actually like doing grass-fed ghee. That's my jam if I'm going to put a fat into a drink. And the nice thing about fats in drinks is they slow the absorption of everything down, and they add a bit of calorie content. So you can make a drink that's more like a meal and add all these super herbs, tonic herbs, medicinal mushrooms, and then add the fat, and it slows that absorption down so you get more of it. Because coffee or tea becomes blood in 5 minutes, becomes pee 5 minutes later. It goes right through us. So fats slow that down.
Yeah, awesome stuff. We're with Yarrow Willard. Let me bring his cool website up on the screen so you guys can take a look at it. If you guys have any questions, for those of you that are in the Dr. John Bergman YouTube channel, or if you're in ours, type them in all caps. And what I'll do after the break is I will ask your questions. I want to ask him when we come back too, what are some of the best medicinal mushrooms that we could sort of get started with, and that way we can find out more about what he's doing. I'm looking at his website here, harmonicarts.com, and we just had an email come in yesterday from a lady who was been listening to our show, and she was like saying, "I'm finally going to buy one of the Bellicon rebounders," and she had been putting it off for a long time. And I was sharing with her, some of my story about how I tore my ACL. I was doing jiu-jitsu, and at the time I was on those little cheap, $50 rebounders, and I had to stop rebounding because my knee was just in so much pain. I never got surgery on my ACL, and so when I would jump up and down, it was just too much shock on my knees. And eventually I sort of ponied up for the Bellicon rebounder. And if you guys don't know what rebounding is, it's one of the most incredible exercises you could ever do. It's such a unique form of exercise. I used to think of it like, watching Suzanne Summers in the 1970s with, tights on and jumping up and down. It just looked like something that I would never do. But when you start understanding the benefits of rebounding, what it does for your circulation, for your lymphatic fluid drainage and cleansing of the lymphatic system, and what it does for bone density. It's incredible for bone density, and it's one of the most unique exercises, using gravity and G-force to open up the millions of one-way valves that you have on or inside of your lymphatic system that don't really open and close that well without doing something like rebounding. And so I'm a big fan of it. It's something I've been doing for years. I take mine outside. I jump while I'm grounded. I have a little grounding cord, and I listen to podcasts or whatever, and I just try to learn and be out in the sun. It's just like another excuse to get outside. And the Bellicons, if you don't have one, I highly recommend getting one. They are amazing. They're silent. The legs fold. They come with little bars in case you're worried about balance. They have a money-back guarantee on them. You can probably see they use these flexi sort of ropes, and instead of springs, like those loud springs, so you can do it if your kids are sleeping. It's a really incredible form of exercise. So make sure to check out the Bellicon rebounders in our store, and also. We've had our Omica Organics 12-stage RO water system for about a year now, and I was looking up some information. We got turned on to them by a friend of our show, and I subsequently have met Rafi, the owner, and had some good talks with him about his products, and specifically this water filter. And it says here that it filters, let's see, particles as small as 1/1000 micron and removes 99.9% of undesirable contaminants up to 1,000 gallons. And here's some of what it gets rid of in your water. By the way, municipal tap water has, I think, around 24,000 different chemicals in it. And they sort of let us drink it, which is crazy. But it gets rid of aluminum, arsenic, chloramine, chromium, copper, lead, mercury, pentavalent, total or TDS, volatile organic compounds like benzene, chloroform. I can't even say some of these words. Xylenes, fluorides, colloids, chlorine, cadmium, antimony, as well as things like asbestos, bacteria, nitrites, odors, protozoa. Which is crazy, right? Like, what are protozoa doing in our water? Rust, viruses. There's also homeopathic residue of chemotherapy and drugs that people are taking in the water. So you really want to make sure that, like Yarrow was just saying, what we drink becomes our blood within 30 minutes. So, it's very important. And also we use their water filter as well in our showers so that we make sure that we're not sort of breathing in the mist of these small particles into our lungs and getting it into our largest organ of our body, which is our skin. So big fan of the Omica 12-stage RO water filter. So if you guys want to check that out, you can do so in our store. And I want to bring Yarrow back. Let's see. I want to talk with him about some of the medicinal mushrooms and what, in your opinion, Yarrow, are the top. Like David Wolf always talks about, like, you don't have to worry about the top 100 mushrooms, right? Just take the top 5 or so. So in terms of the top mushrooms, what are some of the main mushrooms people should start consuming and then getting used to working with those?
Well, I mentioned them earlier: reishi, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, turkey tail, and I'm happy to go through some of those. But first, before I do, I just want to say that rebounder is awesome. I have my dad has one of those, and every time I'm over there, I'm on that thing and just love it.
Is that the Bellicon? He's got the Bellicon
Yeah,
one?
it's a Belgian. No,
They're great.
anyway,
They're great.
yeah. And your other ad, Rafi is quite a quirky guy. I really enjoy his take on life as well.
Yeah, he's great. He's a fun guy. Totally fun
Oh yeah,
guy.
deep into the Steiner philosophy and that whole path of alignment with health in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, mushrooms. Okay, so if you're like you mentioned David Wolf a couple of times, he definitely has really brought an awareness to the larger mass around how to work with these mushrooms, and that's great. That's really what we want, is people to get curious about them. The science, though, is incredible. It's amazing how many millions of dollars have literally been spent on mushrooms like reishi just to understand it better. I mean, this mushroom has two groups of compounds in it, one called branch polysaccharides, which are the main active compounds in immunomodulating the body. They're like 10,000 sugars all put together in this sophisticated map system that kind of teaches our body how to show up better. It helps our immune system, our white blood cells, and it's got that modulatory kind of college education in the universe. That's really the branch polysaccharides. They're in all of those medicinal mushrooms. But reishi has over 400 different types in it, which is huge.
Wow.
And then the spore pads and the outside shell has a lot of triterpenes, which are a smaller, more hormonal style compound. And these have a much more profound effect on the body more acutely. So things like calming down respiration, heart palpitations, antiviral effects and anti-radiation effects in the liver. Some of these happen in reishi, or the benefits of reishi come from these. But my favorite thing, or my favorite byline of reishi that I love that comes out of China, is because they consider it like herb of immortality or spiritual potency. And in fact, it was in the Forbidden City, the emperor's throne had a big giant golden reishi on the top of it. That's how much they revered it. 4,000 years of history.
That's crazy.
And the byline is to protect the academic from their own mind.
Oh, no way.
So to help us from circular thinking, to ground us back into our body, to get us back into coherence with the natural world. So this is something I take when I go to the cities. I take a little reishi with me because it just kind of brings me back into my center. And I find it really affects people profoundly this way when they've been taking it for 20 to 30 days. They start to get more grounded. They don't lose their car keys as much. They remember their to-do list. They don't forget things, and they're more present. That's a huge bonus that reishi really brings, besides all the anti-tumor effects, the immune supportive effects, the liver protective effects, the cardiovascular healing effects. So wide spectrum of offerings, but the biggest one is to bring us back into our own body.
Okay, so that's reishi.
That's reishi.
It's reishi. And would you want someone to work with them or work with it? It probably would be best to start working with it in the easiest way possible, right? Because you can get more complex in terms of how you work with mushrooms. So probably the easiest would be like a powder kind of a thing. Yeah,
I mean, the number one rule I always give people is compliance is king.
Okay.
How do you use things? They don't work if you don't use them, right?
Right.
They don't. Nothing works if you don't use it. So what's easiest for you? Is it a little powder of an extract into your coffee or tea? Great. Do it that way. Is it a tincture, droppers? That's an easy way to start working with them too. The harder way is to start cooking it up and making it into the tea, because it's a 20-minute to an hour brew to make reishi tea. And it's bitter. So not everybody likes the taste of it. So the best way I find is we do a dual extracted powder format that we sell at Harmonic Arts, and it's awesome because it's instantly absorbed. It's a 12-to-1 extract, and it's grown with just the fruiting bodies, which is where the main benefits are shown, grown on a log source. One of the challenges with mushrooms is there's all kinds of different types, and some are grown on grain spawn, some are using just the mycelium, some are using the fruiting body. So my experience has me understand that the fruiting body is where most of the science is, and grown on a log or in a natural source material like that is going to produce the best quality fruiting body. So that's what I like to work with.
So tell people a little bit about the, you just mentioned it. What did you say? It was the dual extraction. So tell people about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is starting to come out of what the Chinese are doing with herbs these days, which I think is really cool. they're creating these evaporated extracts, which are easily absorbed. Now, of course, source material is the most important, organic certified, quality grown. But what's happening is reishi has the triterpenes I mentioned and the branch polysaccharides. So you've got this alcohol soluble compound, these hormonal triterpenes that are kind of like the mushroom hormones. And you've got these branch polysaccharides, which are their storage knowledge, their infinite wisdom they've accumulated. Those are water soluble. These are alcohol soluble. So you make a water soluble brew and you make an alcohol soluble tincture that you shake daily, put the two together to make a dual extract, and then it's being evaporated down to this powder. And that's that instant absorption. That's the easiest way to kind of work with it. Or you just take that dual extracted tincture, which is not hard. I've got a couple of videos on YouTube that kind of share about dual extraction methodology. You can't evaporate off the powder very easily because you really are best to do it in what's called a vacuum dehydrator, which is really an atmospheric tube that's at a lower atmosphere and boils off at room temperature.
Oh, wow.
That's quite a few $100,000 worth of machinery. But you can make a tincture like nobody's business. It's people's medicine. It's easy and it's not hard.
So yeah, I want to get into chaga next, but in terms of making a tincture, there's a lot of different kinds of alcohol people are using. What's your brand of choice? Are you able to say a brand of choice? What do you think is good for that?
Well, I'll tell you what we use and what I've seen is good and bad. I mean, you want to use a high proof alcohol, 95% or 190 proof. You bring that down with water to whatever percentage you need. So in the reishi's case, I'm wanting a 75 to 70% alcohol to extract those hormonal triterpenes. They're small chemistry, better with higher alcohol. And then I'm going to dumb that down with my water extraction to bring the whole finished volume to 30%. So the twos are extracted separately. But with the reishi and that kind of alcohol, what I choose usually is we have a fair trade cane sugar organic alcohol source.
Oh, wow.
That's something we order from Alchemical Solutions in Oregon. Beautiful company. They got great alcohols. Other choices are grain alcohol. The problem is it's often genetically modified corn. And other choices also grape alcohol. Or there's potato alcohol, or you can distill your own. But if you're not distilling properly, that's dangerous. So, you make sure you're not just buying somebody's moonshine that's not properly processed if you're going to use that kind of alcohol.
Yeah. I often wonder, are there other components or constituents, do you think, inside of these plants that we haven't yet discovered the actual mechanism of getting those constituents out? Like, are there things that could be extracted with, say, oil or some other kind of extraction that we're leaving medicine on the table, so to speak? Because we haven't discovered this yet.
Well, most of it, like mushrooms like reishi, for example, have been heavily studied. Like I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars put towards researching this mushroom. And one of the things is in those spores, there's also oil soluble compounds, which is what they're doing now is doing a reishi spore oil extract. So
I've
just
heard
the
of that,
spores
yeah.
And pulling out to get those oil soluble compounds. Usually this is done into an olive oil base or some other kind of oil, maybe almond oil. That's going to carry that with it. And it's beautiful. It's a powerful medicine, high in those triterpene compounds. They're also oil soluble, right? So when it comes to organic chemistry, there are multiple things. I mean, one thing I'll just touch on it here because this is interesting for some of your listeners maybe, but psilocybin in the psilocybin mushroom is not really alcohol soluble. It's not good in alcohol at all. In fact, it's not good mixed with alcohol, really. People do that. But if you really want to make a good microdosing extract, little quick brain hook for a few people here, is you want to use vinegar because psilocybin is much more extractable in vinegar. So people will do a decoction with a tea, bring it down to a low boil, and then add an apple cider vinegar to really pull out those compounds. So every mushroom's different. Every bit of organic chemistry has a different way of being pulled out. These are just the best for the medicinal mushrooms are alcohol for the triterpenes and water for those polysaccharides.
Yeah, so fascinating. So much going on with this kingdom. It's I remember a couple of years ago I went on sort of a mushroom binge on YouTube and just watched documentary after documentary. I sit in my sauna and I just sort of just go crazy with these documentaries. But I watched so many different documentaries all about mushrooms, and the more you study, the more fascinating it becomes in terms of just every aspect of what mushrooms are doing here on this earth. It's That's incredible. So let's move on to chaga, because that's reishi and chaga are my two favorites. So what's going on with this amazing mushroom chaga?
Well, chaga, what I really like about chaga is it's more symbiotic, whereas many of the other mushrooms are eating the tree. Chaga is actually growing as part of the immune support of the tree. So the chaga grows like a big black kind of almost burl-like looking thing, but it's not. It's corky on the inside. It's soft on the inside, not squishy, but corky, and orange on the inside, but black on the outside. The thing is it grows in response to protect the tree and protect the tree's immune system. And the trees that have chaga on them actually live longer. It concentrates their betulinic acid, which is in the outer ring of the tree, to support its life and to support its protection from the outside environment. It's an antioxidant and immune support. And then that tree lives longer. And now it grows on a birch tree. And birch trees are synonymous with short-lived trees. They grow fast, they die quick. So the chaga, when they align with the chaga, it actually supports their entire immune system of that forest. So if a branch falls off a tree, a little chaga will grow in its place often. And this then has a similar benefit to us. It again supports our immune system, but a big thing to chaga is antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, right? It's playing that role in the tree. It's a protective antioxidant and anti-inflammatory for the tree. Well, it also does this for us. It concentrates something called SOD, or superoxide dismutase, which is a free radical scavenger like no other. I mean, your internal organs use this free radical scavenger to protect them from free radical damage. So does your digestive tract. And chaga, when you consume it as a tea, really gives you high volumes of this SOD, which is basically put chaga on something they call the ORAC scale. They put it as like the top antioxidant potential of anything we've ever found on this planet. So that's huge. This mushroom has a major antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effect, but also with that comes protective to certain organs, and especially people with mucosal membrane inflammation, gut imbalances, Crohn's, even sore throats, I find, and especially supportive for digestive cancers. You know, there's a couple of medicines in Russia, one called bifungin, and it's a pharmaceutical that's made out of chaga. It's been used for at least 50, 60 years now as an anti-cancer medicine. So there's a lot of fame around this as a tonic, nutritive for the winter, just to keep the immune system up. Throughout Siberia and that part of the world where it was originally kind of used pretty heavily. But there's also a lot of research now and a lot of support around using it for adjunct with cancer treatments. So, and anti-inflammatory effects in the gut.
Yeah, it's also really great for the skin as well. Doesn't it help create melanin and things like that, right?
Yeah, you got it. That's another piece there is melanin in the chaga itself. There's also a vanillin, kind of vanilla type compound, which makes it taste really yummy as a tea.
Yeah, my goodness. Now, what are the other three? There's turkey tail, I think you mentioned, right? And there's a couple other ones.
Yeah, so, well, let's start at turkey tail. That's a good one. It's one maybe a little less known in our Western world, although pretty much grows everywhere. I call this one hiker's mushroom because it's all over the world and it's easy to find when you're on a hiking trail out in the forest. There's lots of it. Wow. Really simple, easy looking, looks like a turkey's tail. And there's usually like multiple of them, about 2 to 3 inches long, and they're just growing all over a log. But this mushroom has a chemical compound in it called PSK, or polysaccharide crestine. This has been explored really heavily in Asia as another, probably the most profound anti-tumoral medicine. So right now in Japan, at least since the 80s even, they've been using it in adjunct with chemotherapies and radiation therapies because of its ability to increase the body's recovery rate of working with radiation therapy. So up to 400% better recovery from the chemotherapies that people are taking. Plus it has a huge benefit in its beta glucans, which are a type of branched polysaccharide, to really support cancer treatment. So I see you got a few of those mushrooms up. There's chaga growing on a tree.
Yeah.
Pretty gnarly looking one. I've got some huge ones here that if you take another break, I'll bring back a couple to show you.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Look at these things. They're just growing right off the trees. And there's obviously like a more of a sacred way of working and extracting these from the trees, right? Like some people will leave a certain amount on the tree while, people that probably don't really think about this too much will just hack the whole thing off and take it, right?
Yeah, well, it's a crime against wisdom. And the thing is the more you do crimes like that against wisdom, hack it all off and take it, the
Uh-huh.
more the medicine stops working for you, or you start to get these uncomfortable feelings like, oh, maybe I should think a little better about this. So I do believe that as long as it's not just guided by greed and money, um, the medicines will start to speak to you and say, like, look, treat us with respect, treat us with reciprocity. And that's something that I'm a huge believer in, is finding ways to give back to the abundance of this world. Because as soon as you realize that we live on this magical and abundant planet that is here to heal us and is conspiring to see us at our best, you realize that you have a lot of love to give back and a lot of appreciation to give back to that planet for all of its gifts that it keeps giving us.
I know, right? I mean, look at this mushroom. Look at this reishi
Yeah,
on the screen. I mean, that
Reishi's pretty beautiful.
it's what a beautiful, like, it's just amazing that nature creates this, right?
So a quick hit, the Latin name Ganoderma. Gano is shiny and derma is skin. So shiny skinned mushroom is
Ah,
really what
okay.
that means of
S-
reishi.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to get at least. I mean, look at this one. I mean, it's really important
Wow.
for people to start working with these things, right? And really is bring in. I always like to tell people to start have some health goals, like I want to get, a certain device, or I want to start working with mushrooms, or I want to start working with, increase my fitness, or whatever it is, maybe working with essential oils. But pick something for the year and start working with it and learning about it, right? I mean, to bring more
Yeah.
mushrooms into your life is just gonna improve everyone's health and life and the planet in general.
Well, it's enhancing our awareness of alignment too. Like the thing that the mycelial intelligence really shares with us is this communication too with all the other organisms. Like we call this the wood wide web. This is nature's internet. This is the communication channel, the nervous system, and the immune system of planet Gaia. And it's connected with all the species in the forest. And so there's a deeper alignment there that there is to learn from the intelligence of how mushrooms actually feed a lot of the trees their minerals and transfer nutrients to their babies and nurse sick trees and really bring that balance and equilibrium and communication channel through the forest. Like this is huge, this mycelial intelligence piece. When we start to look at what that is in the world, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Do you yourself, do you do like the green juice thing still now that you know about mushrooms, or have you stopped doing
So
that?
I was going to mention that I do the transitional alignment health path, which means that I'm never on one thing for too long. I am
Nice.
flowing with seasonal health. So, like I said, I'm doing a 40-day mushroom challenge right now. Heavy up. It's the season. People are dropping like flies. They're getting sick. Well, I don't get sick. I rarely get sick. And it's partly a seasonal alignment health,
Uh-huh.
which means I'm stocking up my body with immune medicine right now. In Chinese medicine, this is the lung season. It's fall. It's the time to like get that deep lung support, the immune support. It's also get those nourishing root vegetables to start stockpiling winter reserves, which is what we have in our house. We process so much food here, and we've got just a beautiful bounty in the basement, but it's part of a transitional diet. Springtime is liver season, and that's when all the greens are coming up, and I just hammer those green juices then and eat those salads like they're going out of style and get into that deep green nourishment in that early spring, mid-spring season. That's really the time where my desire for green juices is up, up, up. And in the summer, it's a desire for fruit juices, and fruitarians to a degree.
Uh-huh.
So, I would recommend that your intuition is can easily unravel the code of how the world is showing up around you. Therefore, tell you the most appropriate foods for that season. And it doesn't have to be a diet. It's where's the attention of the chi? Where's the attention of the energy right now in the world. That's where I should focus my attention too. It's a yes, 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 and easy alignment awareness once you kind of think of it that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I think that a lot of times people get locked into these diets and following these programs, but what they ultimately do, it's like the trackers we were talking about before. It's like they lock you into
Right.
some sort of way of eating that you're just going to be rigid and do that your whole life. But when you start being intuitive and you start realizing what foods are around you during what seasons, what's local, what's showing up for you. I mean, that's really what we're designed to do, right? So maybe you can,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want to follow a ketogenic diet, for example, or a paleo diet or a raw food vegan diet, if you want to follow those things, eat what's in season, eat what's local, right? And eat what's around you.
Totally.
That makes more sense to me.
Yeah, well, my belief on all of those diets is that they are a spiritual cleanse. They are an awakening. They help you clear the palate so you can see cleaner again. And they're not necessarily the most sustainable all the time path. And I find people who, like, the ketogenic one is fairly new to our world, but you know, often what happens is when people are eating this high fat, they sometimes start to get to a higher protein and fat. And then it's hard on the liver and the kidneys to process all of this all the time, this fat and protein. And eventually, 3-4 years from now, we're going to see some people with some major inflammation from misuse of the ketogenic diet. The raw food diet too, stripping minerals from the body over these long-term uses. Nothing right, nothing wrong. These diets are amazing as a spiritual reset, as a cleanse, as a way to remove obstacles so you can see better, right? That's how I like to think of them. And other than that, I follow this, what I call the flexitarian diet.
I like
And
that.
I know that's just a funny word, but I call it 80% upgrade. That's 80% upgrade and 20% no worries diet. So
I like that.
that means no guilt.
Yeah.
Eat whatever you want on your 20%. Start with 10% because 20% slips to 60%
Yeah.
if you're not aware of it. But
Right.
literally, as soon as you feel guilty about eating something, you're actually causing a negative response in the body, and you're not pre-paving quality life. You're actually pre-paving I'm less than capable. And that's really important to get away from on every level, as you can possibly imagine. If you want to be a powerful and creative person in the world, you got to get out of the self-shame.
Yeah.
And that's a big piece that causes a lot of people to go to certain diets.
Yeah, and I think too that when you do that, you start putting more power into a food than you do your own body. Because it's like, if I eat this slice of pizza, somehow this pizza is going to damage me. But at the same time, you could use your mind to walk over hot coals. So why couldn't you use your mind and your intuition and your guidance to say this food is not going to affect me, but yet we give the power to the, slice of pizza like it's going to kill me if I eat it. And so it's like giving away
Yeah.
our power, right?
Well, and our power also stems from our microbiome too, right? One thing I learned about from mushrooms is it's this co-creative process. We are building and farming and growing this soil inside of us, this microbiome of resiliency. All these organisms that symbiote with us, they are badasses. Like, they literally can take down a piece of pizza, no problem. Give them the support
All
they
right.
need, and they will destroy that pizza and turn it into the best thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really what it's all about. So we have a couple more. We've done the reishi, the
Yep.
chaga, the turkey tail, and what are the other two that people should start with?
Well, these two are probably my favorites right now, or at least one of them is. Well, they both are, but the other ones are chaga, or no, sorry, cordyceps and lion's mane.
Okay.
And let's start with cordyceps because it's interesting. Basically, this is a mushroom that grows out of a worm or an insect. If you want to see something really scary, Google tarantula cordyceps. Google some of the ant cordyceps, but they grow out of a worm. Hey, there's one of our products, that cordyceps there.
Oh, no way. Is that in the top left?
In the middle
This
with
guy.
the jar.
Oh, this guy. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's one of our
cool.
cordyceps mushroom powders. But
So
you see
what
those little worms beside it? That's originally what it's on. Most of the cordyceps that's grown now, though, is grown vegetarian source.
Oh, okay. I'm going to look up
Yeah.
tarantula cordyceps. Is that what you said?
It's pretty scary. I mean,
Oh.
warning your viewers. But literally this
Chinese
grows on the intelligence of insects. Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh. What the heck?
So that tarantula has been entirely inoculated by this mushroom. It's taken over its nervous system and it's growing. Those antlers are fruiting bodies where the spores are coming out of.
Oh my gosh.
But this mushroom gained its claim to fame really from the Chinese Olympic team who broke all these world records, and they thought they were all over drugs, but they weren't. They were just taking high volumes of cordyceps. And what it does is it opens up the bronchioles. So we get deeper oxygenation, deeper flow in the body. That's a huge benefit the cordyceps brings us, is better oxygenation to the cells. So we have a lot of football players taking it, a lot of athletes take cordyceps as a regular support, but also adrenal fight or flight stress. That's another big aspect that the cordyceps really, really supports us with. So everything from asthma and shallow breathing and allergies to high performance sports and adrenal fatigue and adrenal burnout. Chinese medicine, they consider cordyceps to be a Jing builder, which is to build that kind of internal battery that we came into life with, to replenish the body at a deep, nourishing level. So that's a pretty cool mushroom. That's, the wild cordyceps, we actually do a wild cordyceps tincture, but it's so expensive to get the raw materials of wild cordyceps. It's way more expensive than anything else I've ever bought.
Wow. Now, why is that, do you think?
Well, because it takes an entire village of people, probably months to collect a pound or a kilo, so I spent $7,000 on a kilo of wild cordyceps, and
oh my gosh,
it was insane. And it's beautiful. I mean, the flavor is buttery. It has this really, like, you kind of get this full bodied flavor that I just was like, wow. So we do a wild tincture as a sort of a mushroom hunter's private reserve line. That's fun. And I really like working with that one.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these images here. It's so crazy. So what they do, so explain a little bit about what they do. They overtake,
so basically, I'll use an ant. This is a great example. You ever seen an ant? They do this all the time, right? They're cleaning their mandibles and cleaning their front feet.
Right.
So they do that because they're hyper aware of funguses that can infect them. And they're like the most OCD organism on the planet. They're cleaning all the time because these funguses, this cordyceps, will come in. Cordyceps militaris is the one that likes to get ants, and it'll come in and it'll infect an ant. And then it'll make the ant go a little bit crazy, kind of like get a little loopy, and start to mash in amongst the other ants and get the other ants infected. The cordyceps won't take over the ant's nervous system until it's had a chance to either infect the other ants or really fully start controlling it like a zombie. And it'll make the ant climb up a tree to the top of the tree, bite into the tree, and then it'll kill the ant so that it can fruit and send its fruiting body all through the forest. So it has this intelligence that it doesn't eat its food ahead of time. It learns how to control the nervous system and be mobile and get into this ant community. And if an ant is infected with cordyceps and the ant community finds that ant, you know what they do? They grab that ant, all of them, they come to the edge of a water or a cliff or something, and every one of those ants that touch that ant commits suicide and kills itself.
No way.
Because they are that afraid of cordyceps getting into their colony that they'll all just commit suicide to protect the colony from the mushroom.
That is so crazy. So these spores are getting inside of the ant, and then they're actually just like growing out of it.
Taking over its brain, right?
Oh my goodness. Look at this thing.
Yeah. Pretty cool mushroom there. It's really interesting how, and so there's been some sci-fi novels kind of designed off of the cordyceps phenomenon of like a mushroom zombie, I think, that kind of takes over.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah.
It doesn't have any of that effect in us. It's an insect-based thing. And what it does for us is it opens our bronchioles. These are often found in the high Himalayan plateaus and in the high Andes and even in the high Rocky Mountains. And they're really good for altitude sickness. They're really good for supporting stress of being in those kind of environments. So that's really why they've got so much fame, is their ability to handle stress and our ability to have the body more responsive and more balanced around stressful situations.
Interesting. And so would this be considered to be like a tonic, something people could take every day?
Yeah, nutritive tonic, adaptogen, and in Chinese medicine, as I said, Jing builder, which is like basically pre-ancestral chi that you came into life with. It helps rebuild and replenish that kind of energy in the body. So as we get older, weaker, more debilitated, cordyceps can really help bring us back up to some of that energy back in the body.
Wow. And do you know if there's any, you know how like in traditional medicine, there's like, side effects or there's, contraindications with other things. If someone were to take all 5 of these mushrooms every day, are there effects, synergistic effects, or bad or good, or what's the deal with combining these mushrooms?
Yeah. So when it comes to combining mushrooms, these types are all really safe. In fact, they've been used both in young children and elderly quite safely for regular amounts of time. A lot of the science is starting to show that combination mushrooms, especially when you're working with cancer treatment or autoimmune diseases, the combination mushrooms can really be more effective than just some of the singles. Cordyceps is a little different, and lion's mane is a little different from the reishi, the chaga, and the turkey tail, which are all more of these branch polysaccharides. The lion's mane and the cordyceps have a little less of those, which means to a very small degree, similar to how some of the food mushrooms like button mushrooms and portobello mushrooms and chanterelle mushrooms, if you eat high volumes of those, they can exacerbate candida, which is a fungus that grows in our gut and is not as good.
Yeah.
So high volumes of some of the like fleshy mushrooms are not ideal for the body.
Okay.
But in kind of tonic, tablespoon, teaspoon a day, nutritive amounts, it's really only if somebody is very, very high candida already that this might exacerbate that a little bit. Whereas the tree mushrooms are antifungal and anti-candida. But other than that, they're like basically food. They're one of the most safe things we can consume without any kind of counterindications, along with a lot of pharmaceuticals. Like quite a few countries use medicinal mushrooms in relation to other pharmaceutical treatment because they don't have such a heavy load that causes dysfunction and more side effects in these pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal. So what is the final mushroom?
All right, so lion's mane.
Lion's mane. That's right.
This one's gaining a lot of fame. In fact, it's made its way into some pretty big magazines as a like neuro hack for supporting neurology. Its original claim to fame really came from research that was done in working with some of these neurological degenerative diseases, and especially Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. This is where lion's mane really started to get researched. And what they found is it has this nerve growth factor in it, and it helps stimulate new nerve cell development. So I like to joke that it's the mushroom that I can't remember what it's good for.
Right.
This is good for memory.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's one that's going to help you cognitively. So often this is now being used more with dissociation, with epilepsy, with dementia, and with even just ADD and attention issues. Now, I think our whole world, like I said, suffers from nature deficit disorder, but it also suffers from ready, fire, aim, which is we're not firing after we're aiming after we're firing. And so a lot of us are on this, like everything's instant. We don't have to take time to really get there. And so this causes some fragmentation in our nervous system, and lion's mane's there to really support that. So I think this one's going to gain a lot more awareness in the next 5 to 10 years, just based on the neurochemistry of the modern world and how that's changing so dramatically fast.
Yeah, so interesting. I'm looking at another thing online here. If you guys are watching on the YouTube, you can see keeping the brain healthy, supporting the immune system to help prevent cancer and other diseases, boosting mood and concentration, decreasing inflammatory. It seems like every mushroom has some sort of impact on inflammation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with these branch polysaccharides that are in them. A lot of that has to do with basically a type of chemistry that teaches our body a college education. It's like, hey, here's a diploma in how to show up on planet Earth. FYI, I've been doing this for a long time. You want to get in on the postgraduate studies? Come join me for a few months in your diet. You know?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Look at immune support, neurological health support, cognitive. This is exactly what you were saying. Antioxidant, memory, digestive, allergy, stress, anxiety. These things are crazy. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you can see they look like, I mean, that's why they're called lion's mane, but they look like this crazy load of, kind of like a cauliflower-esque shape and look and color to them,
Oh
with
yeah.
like a little bit of hair on them that grows on the side of a tree. It's
Yeah, there's another one around here. So the whole family is the Hericium family in mushrooms, and there's one around here called bear's tooth or bear's head, and it's really cool looking too. Just like that, it's one of those types of lion's mane mushrooms. This whole family, what's really cool about them is when you eat them, they make you feel good. They're kind of like anti-anxiety, anti-depression in a mushroom. Like you don't get high, but you feel pretty darn good eating these mushrooms. And so that's part of that nerve regeneration support. So, I think as people are looking to some of these what I'll call psychoactive medicines, or what are currently illegal medicines, not in some states, but like marijuana or psilocybin.
uh-huh.
Some of these medicinal mushrooms are really good to kind of start exploring in alternative or in conjunction with,
Hmm.
people who are looking to those therapies for medicine. Well, I just invite you to look to the medicinal mushrooms to support that search, or as another option that can really bring that type of medicine, that powerful kind of medicine, to your awakened world.
Yeah, man, I'm so on board with the whole medicinal mushroom thing that you're doing. Tell people a little bit about what you're doing, because it looks like to me you have the harmonicarts.ca. Let me bring that up on the screen. So that's like a website where it looks like you have a lot of the products that you were talking about in product form today. But then you also were saying before the show that you have like an online academy or something where people can learn how to make their own stuff, right?
Yeah. So
It's
again, it's
really cool.
all, like I said, deepening the plant connections. And so the medicine bridging is what the mission is. And Harmonic Arts is a place to buy all kinds of really interesting combinations and to work with medicinal mushrooms and the top quality organic herbs, in tea, syrup, tinctures, this type of format. We also have a school, which is really my father. Like I said, I'm a second generation herbalist. My father's school, wildrosecollege.com, and that is a place for online learning around working with plant medicine. So we have a 4-year practical and master herbalist program, where it can go deep into like the history of herbs, nutrition, working with herbs in the body, Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, applied phytotherapeutics, which is like every range of imbalance to go with each disease. Yeah, and you'll see there you can get a free ebook if you join our newsletter. Both websites have that. Lots of valuable information. But this school is really been around since the 70s, and we've been evolving it to an online platform with lots of great video, a fun back-end webinar series set, and really just working with teaching people how to better connect with plant medicine, and become herbalists if that's what they want to do. Some of the other things I like to do, we run a Vancouver Island herb gathering every single year, and it's a great place to connect with plant medicine, and that's at herbgathering.org. But we play with plant medicine and try to find the best way to work with it. So the Practical Herbalist program is probably my favorite place for people to start to look at working with plant medicine if they want to go deeper. I also have a YouTube channel, and that's where some of the like most fun, what I call edutainment videos show up under Herbal Jedi. That's my
Right.
kind of hashtag brain hook. If you want to find me in the Netherverse, it's Herbal Jedi. I'll be out
Yeah.
there somewhere in your sound and visual scape.
So that's what you are on, I think, on Instagram, right? Herbal Jedi.
Mhm. Yeah, and on YouTube as well. We have got 150 videos on plant medicine, and it's fun. It's good. Lots of deep content. You can have one of those, we call them Netflix style binges on our channel if you want to. It's
That's
it's um
awesome.
it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at your course now. It's really cool. You have an herbal pharmacy. It says
Hmm.
coming soon, so that looks really cool. And then you have
Yeah,
advanced. So these are courses. Oh wow, natural pregnancy and childbirth too. Wow. Do you have
yeah.
anything for kids and things like that, like little children?
We are looking to build a few new classes, and that's that we have the person who's doing the natural pregnancy and childbirth. She has proposed to do a herbs for kids kind of program to go along with that, because that's definitely the next step that a lot of the people working with that aspect of life really want to like go deeper with.
That's really cool. So people can purchase individual courses, and is there something where people can buy every month and get access to everything, or how does that work?
Yeah, so what we have is like the Practical Herbalist program has a really wide offering for a discounted price. And then every year we do a fall sale and help to kind of encourage people into starting the new school year to get deeper into the plants in that way. So this one has 9 courses, the Practical Herbalist, and that's like the deepest dive. What we do have as an ongoing thing, once you're a student at Wild Rose, we're just implementing this year a whole new webinar series, which is really just going through question and answers, but also adding like every week a section on digestion or on liver health or on kidney health or supporting individual health issues, and kind of keeping that education going beyond the program. But just being a student, you get access to that, plus forums and discussion groups and places you can, learn a little more from your community. That's the thing about herbalism. It's people's medicine. We need to learn it with each other and from each other and connect with each other more on these medicines. And they're simple. They're not that hard. They're easy to make, and they're abundant and all around us. Once we get kind of that hook into making our own plant medicine, it's a beautiful path that'll just keep growing and nourishing you throughout your life and those around you. So
that's so great. Is Terry, your dad, is he still involved in everything?
He is. We're trying to help him retire, because he's one of these people. He's written 13 books on plant medicine. He's been past president of the Canadian Herbalist Guild. He's been on the NHP licensing board for a long time. He's been a prominent player in helping bridge plant medicine in Canada as well as in the States, and so he will just work himself to the end of his days unless we try to help him retire. So now he just does course creation mostly and a bit of lecture tours and shares a bit more on plants that way.
That's awesome. Let me see if there's any chat questions I should ask you before. Is it better, Amla wants to know, is it better to make a tea of reishi or take the capsules?
Okay, so one thing, I didn't mention capsules before, but my recommendation with any capsule, you open it up and you taste it. You don't have to eat the whole thing, just taste it. Your sensory perception will help you absorb it much better. So if you're taking capsules, you need to connect with this medicine. You need to know what it tastes like in order for your body to fully understand and absorb it at its best capacity. So tea is better, but it's much harder to do than capsules. So my recommendation with capsules, open them up, taste them, or put them in hot water, or put them in a little bit of a milkshake or a smoothie and drink them back. That's my recommendation. Versus taking capsules.
Nice. Yeah, I'm with you on that one for sure. Jess wants to know, question about chaga. She says, how long would you usually have to use it to be able to notice a difference? I used 1 bottle of Superior Chaga tincture. Maybe that's like a brand or something. I used one bottle of Superior Chaga tincture out of Upper MI, but didn't notice it. So I'm wondering. Yeah. So it sounds like.
Well, consistency is part of it. So are you using the 1 bottle? I mean, obviously she's not here to totally dialogue this, but are you doing like 2 to 3 droppers full a day? That's like a good volume of it on a regular consistency. The other thing with chaga is like the benefits are anti-inflammatory and digestive support, antioxidant, immune support. So sometimes you don't always notice these things in a sense of, wow, I didn't get sick. That's not always that noticeable.
Right.
Or, I don't have tummy cramps. That's not as noticeable. What you can notice with chaga sometimes is if you have a sore throat and you drink that tea, it's just like, it's supportive that way. You can notice that kind of thing. But a lot of these antioxidant qualities are subtle, almost nuances to supporting just more vitality. So you'll notice a bit more energy, a bit more protected in the immune support. My recommendation with chaga, though, is to buy the tea cut, the small cut, and brew it up regularly. Brew this up through the winter months. This is my favorite thing to do. I buy a pound. Well, we just get a giant mushroom and smash it up into small pieces. But but literally a pound will last you most of a winter, and you just rebrew it, keeping it on the stove. Every time you take a cup of water out, put a new cup of water in. And this is like just a gem for your health through the winter months.
Yeah. Okay. So a question, when it comes to brewing chaga or brewing any kind of tea, when I do my chaga, I'll buy it, somewhere if I can't get it locally, I'll buy it in chunks. And then what I'll do is I'll put all those chunks, a bunch of them, in a big glass pot with some filtered water, and I'll make it. And then I'll steep it off. I'll strain it. And then I'll maybe make maybe 5 brews with that same batch. And after every brew, I break up the chunks just a little bit more. So the final brew is almost like a sand, kind of a powder. I really mash it up a lot. Could I do more? Or what's the amount that you would brew, do you think?
Well, this is another place where it's really easy to have good intuition. I would brew it until it doesn't taste very strong.
Okay.
Simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can brew it 4 to 5 times. I usually, if you want to get the most out of it and you only want to brew it 2 or 3 times, start with a fine cut. But the way you've described it is great. Chunks, break them up, and eventually they become finer. That's a great way to brew it.
Okay. Okay, cool. And I've also learned too that, chaga is such a important and valuable mushroom that we shouldn't just throw it away, right? When we're done with it. Like some people put it in composting, and some people use it in their garden. What are some ways that we can use chaga once we think we're done with it, in other unique ways?
So yeah, besides using it as fertilizer for the next round of plants, you can take the chaga grinds and you can put them in vodka, make an alcohol extraction. Then the next time, so do that for 2 weeks, shaking that up every day. That'll make a chaga vodka, which will pull out those terpene compounds and those betulinic acids and other alcohol-soluble compounds that were not pulled out in the water.
Okay.
You can then take your next brew of chaga tea, make it super dark and super thick till it's kind of like a thick gruel, and then combine 50% of your alcohol extract, 50% of your super thick tea together, and that is like your best chaga tincture. That has both in it.
Oh, so
that's what I would often suggest people do, is make their own tincture using the grounds from one batch and the first strongest brew from a second batch.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And I love combining chaga with coffee. It's such a good, I don't know what it is. I make my coffee with the chaga already made.
Yes. So what we often do is we take that first batch and I store it in a mason jar in the fridge.
Okay.
And then it becomes a base for anything else I want water from. Think of tea as herbally inspired and herbal knowledge water. That's what it is. So I'll take that. Sometimes I've had that for too long. I even cooked oatmeal in that chaga. I've cooked pasta in that chaga for my kids when I had to use it up.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
Infuse other foods with it.
Yeah, that's so cool. One final question here from the chat room. Is there a temperature at which you don't want to brew? So how some people will talk about, if you heat water above a certain temperature, you actually get a white blood cell response in the body because the body doesn't recognize cooked water. But then again, if you're going to brew something like chaga is really, chunky, right? So you need that high temperature, I would think, right?
Yeah. So there are some aromatic compounds, just a little bit, and some of the antioxidants that if you majorly over boil it, you're going to lose some of that potency and it won't be as good. So the idea is a light simmer, bring it up to boiling, and then turn it down and have it just a light simmer at that higher heat. You need that heat. You can't just infuse it in hot water. The reason why is the medicine is trapped in something called lignins, which are plant fibers, and they're concentrated out of the tree that's digesting those plant fibers to make the chaga wood-like. And chitin, which is similar to the exoskeletons in insects and our nail beds. So it has this stuff that needs to be broken apart.
Okay, so that's why you need that kind of higher water. So when you're going to bring it up to a simmer and then boil it, how much time would you boil it, something like chaga, do you think? And then how much time to simmer again?
I would caution people to not think of it as boiling.
Okay.
Think of it as like just light simmer. So it's not, we don't want a big rolling boil. That's
Okay.
too high. We want to
Okay.
kind of just like bring that down and have a light simmer where we can stir it regularly and it's not actually boiling. I would do that for 20 minutes at a base. But, when we make a chaga syrup, which is another simple thing you can do with chaga tea, is you make a syrup, you make a super strong concentrate tea, and then you add honey to it. That's it. Simple. Or
Oh,
honey
wow.
and alcohol to it if you want to preserve it for longer.
Wow.
But we'll do like 2 parts tea, 1 part honey, 1 part alcohol. Done. That's a nice syrup. We'll brew that for 5, 6, 7 hours. That deep, rich chaga. And we'll get all that we can out of that batch of chaga. So
Wow.
20 minutes to 5 hours you can brew it for.
I just love when I make my chaga, man. I just love it when you get that first batch and the water is just completely black. It just makes it feel good,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It's so great.
Yeah.
It's like,
And
I love it.
it's so yummy when you add it to fat or something like that too. It's just
Yeah.
like, this rich, deep body that it has with it.
Oh my gosh, it's so black. It's like charcoal water. It's so deep and rich in its color. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a pretty nice tasting one. Another recommendation I have with chaga is it's a good base. Start adding some of your wild medicinal mushrooms into your chaga tea. So that's where your turkey tail can come in if you've harvested in the wild. That Ganoderma applanatum that you found, you can slice little pieces of that up and start like 70% chaga, 30% wild medicinal conchs and polypores. There's all kinds of ones like red-belted polypore and tinder conch, and a lot of these kind of the Fomentopsis family are great, and there's a number of these hard shelf-like mushrooms that have these branch polysaccharides in them that are growing in every forest in the world.
Wow, gosh, it's so crazy. I feel like we barely just scratched the surface. I mean, we didn't even talk about like herbal infusions. We didn't talk about tinctures very much, and we didn't talk about. I mean, there's so much to get to. This whole world is amazing, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all you can get to in one little glimpse. What I hope we did achieve, though, is inspire a few of you to just kind of look deeper and to do a bit of your own research and connect with the intelligence of the planet as an ally. This is the best way to really upgrade our health, is to get back in alignment with natural coherence. And that happens to be when we start to communicate with plants via forest bathing or via consuming them as medicine. These are 2 easy upgrades we can make to our lives to really just enhance that natural intelligence that's already built into our bodies.
Yeah, man, good stuff. Good stuff. Yarrow, man, thank you for your time today. Thanks for being on and sharing your energy with us and your wisdom, man. This was cool. I think we should do this again because we've done, like I said, I think this is episode 615, but we haven't done that much on herbs and herbalism and specifically medicinal mushrooms. And so I'd love to revisit this again if you'd like to do that. That'd be great.
I'd be happy to. More than happy to share this kind of information, and I would love to just help and I'd encourage people to ask some questions because it's only really useful if it affects and works with you directly in your situation. And that's what we're here to help support, to be a bridge for, is how does this stuff benefit you in your health so you can be a powerful person that helps the rest of the people in your life.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. All right, Yarrow, we're going to close it off. Thanks, man, again for spending time with us. We appreciate it so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
See you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Yarrow. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. There you go, Mr. Yarrow Willard. Hope you guys enjoyed that show. That was episode, let me make sure I got that correct. Let's see, episode 615, I think. Can you believe we've done 615 shows? Yeah, so that was 615, and I'll put links to his website. Let me take these out of my head. YarrowWillard.com. It looks like that might be maybe like his own blog or something. Harmonic Arts, which is kind of where it looks like he sells some of the products that he talks about. And then the other school, I think it was called... Let's see. Let me bring that up. It was called Wild Rose College, and I think it's available at wrc.net. Is that right? Yeah, I'll bring that up. But that's really, really cool. I love what he's doing here. Pretty cool. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it fun to have someone on the show who, like, his dad's an herbalist, right? And so, like, he's really into herbalism, but you never know with your kids, right? Like if they're going to be really into the things that you're into. And so how fun that must be for him, and for his dad too, to know that his son is taking over his sort of life's work with that Wild Rose College courses. Really cool. So I'm looking at some of the courses here. Clinical Herbalist Diploma Program. This coming in 2019. Master Herbalist Diploma. Practical Herbalist Diploma. Holistic Therapist Diploma. And then their courses, Anatomy and Physiology, Applied Phytotherapeutics. That's really interesting. Biology and Biochemistry. Really cool, right? Really cool. So I'm looking at his thing, harmonicartsrightnow.com. You can take a look at some of these things. I would recommend really learning more about herbs and really dialing all this stuff in, because it's one thing to sort of buy a product, right? And to take something that's just already pre-made for you. But I know we live in a crazy time right now where life is so busy. But wouldn't it be cool to have some time to be able to, or carve out time really, to start working with herbs and medicinal mushrooms and really getting into what they do? So he's got here elixir blends. This is a really snappy website here, harmonicarts.ca. So he's got them all sort of down: elixir blends, artisan tea blends, mushrooms, sea vegetables, raw chocolate. Superfoods, single herbs and spices, tinctures, flower essences. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we didn't even talk about flower essences. We didn't talk about essential oils. We didn't talk about tinctures or making herbal infusions, which is a completely different sort of way of getting this kind of stuff in your body. Golden milk. Wow, this is cool. So this is from turmeric and ginger. Man, this is really awesome. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that show, Mr. Yarrow Willard. Let me give you a quick update onto our upcoming show schedule. This Friday, we're going to be with Brandon Amalani. We'll be talking with him about EMF, how to mitigate this stuff, 5G. We'll be talking on Monday with Nathan Walls about how light is more important than food. And we'll be talking with JB Hanley on Monday as well about his story. He's a new author. I forget the name of his book, but I have it at home. It's about his son and autism and vaccines. And man, he's got a lot to share. And then next Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Aaron and Geneva Bigelow about this product that they have called the AMP coil. And so that's really interesting. And so that's a lot of cool stuff. So if you're listening on your phone, or if you're listening on the computer, wherever you're listening right now, make sure to subscribe so that you don't lose access to any of these shows that we have going on. Let me check in the chat room and see if there's any questions of things I can answer, or if you guys have any questions about. Yeah, Alma said, great information, Yarrow. Yeah, that's cool. He's a really cool guy. I think everyone, You're an Animal says, should definitely have at least one go-to mushroom. Chaga is really amazing. Yeah, You're an Animal. it's funny saying your name like that. You're an Animal. Chaga is my go-to mushroom. Kate knows. I just love this stuff. We need to get some more soon. So that's cool. Yes, Kate, always get taken back when exploring the various groups of people who help keep the information, the inspiration for truth and knowledge moving forward. It's always small groups, 15 to 100. Yeah, Herbal Jedi, pretty legit. Question about chaga: how long do you usually have to use to be able to notice the difference? Yeah, it's one of those things, Jess. I think it's for me at least. Like I don't necessarily notice a lot of the things that that I take. I might consume something like chaga, or I might consume something like reishi, and I don't necessarily feel it deep within myself, probably because I'm relatively healthy. Like I'm very healthy. And so I take care of myself, and so that's probably why you don't feel things as much maybe sometimes, because if you're feeling really good, to go from a level 10 to a level 11 is kind of, it's not that noticeable, but going from a 0 to a 4, it's a big difference. And so that's probably why sometimes, but the way I look at it is like these things have been thoroughly studied throughout the history of the world, and so much has gone into the science of what these things are doing for us that at least from an intellectual level, it makes so much sense to take care of yourself. And so sometimes, you don't feel like you don't feel necessarily if you drink like a tea versus a cup of water, but you know that, one of them is going to be giving you nutrition and information. So, a lot of times I don't feel what I eat, but I know it's the right thing to do. And so I do it anyway, even if I can't feel it. But I think the goal ultimately would be to be so in tune with your body and how it works that you would feel these things. And so I think that's really what we need to work on from a spiritual perspective as well, is really being in touch with how things are making us feel. And I think that's really what it's all about, because when you start realizing that, you get more in touch with everything that's going on within inside of you, so you can be really connected to that. Susan gives a thanks from a hands up, like a prayer hands. Lynn says, thank you, Yarrow. Yeah, Yarrow's a cool guy, man. Should we have him back on the show? I think we should. Wanted to let you guys know, too, of a couple cool things that are going on, some events that are happening. One has already started on October 1st. If you guys are dealing with any kind of autoimmune issue, let me put a link here so that you guys can check it out. I'll put a link in the chat room, on YouTube, for every one of these events. So this one's the Autoimmune Revolution. If you guys are dealing with any kind of autoimmune disease, definitely want to check that out. It's a whole course or whole summit that dives really deep into that subject. So make sure to check that out. Then the other one is something that hits like really close to me, which is cancer. And the Truth About Cancer is coming up on October 9th, 2018. That's next Tuesday. So I'll put a link in the chat room, and make sure to sign up for that, because it's just massive. One out of every, if you're born after 1960, now the stats are. It used to be 1 out of every 3 women and 1 out of every 2 men would get a cancer diagnosis. If you're born after 1960, it's 1 out of 2 across the board. So this is crazy stuff, right? So you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So make sure to sign up for the Truth About Cancer. And then here's a cool thing. If you guys are in the LA area, from October 22nd to 29th, 2018, our friend Brian Hoyer is going to be out here, and he's going to be doing home assessments. If you guys have been following me on Instagram, you'll know that we have let me put a thing there. We have a 5G tower that's being erected, and we're sort of fighting it, that's being put up right next to our neighborhood. This thing is huge, and I think I put it on our Instagram stories or Instagram photo. I forget where it was, but so this whole 5G thing, talk about cancer and talk about something that is literally destroying our immune system. This 5G is such a bigger deal than most people are talking about. And it's so important to have someone out to your home. I mean, Brian Hoyer, we had him on the show a couple days ago. He's a building biologist, and he has $30,000 worth of equipment testing EMF, and he'll come to your house. And so he's making a trip out here. I think he lives in Ohio, but he's making a trip out here to LA. So if you Dr. Bergman fans are in the Southern California area, if you're watching this, check it out. Shielded Healing. I'll put it. Let's see, where can you guys find it? Go over to the Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel, and you'll see it coming up in the chat room. And then the other event coming up is the Female Hormone Summit. That's coming up. Let me make sure I get the dates correct on this one. I always want to tell you guys, events that are coming up that are timely and live, so that you can join them if you like. That one's coming up November 5th. So if you're a female listening to this and your hormones are working absolutely perfectly, then don't worry about joining this summit. But if you are a female and you want to fix your hormones, want to get on top of your hormones and get them optimized and working properly for you, check out the Female Hormone Summit coming up November 5th. So a lot of you guys are saying, bring him back. Yeah, Maria, I think we should. Great energy, right? Really good guy. Love what he's doing. I love people that are actually doing the work that they love to do too. So it's really, really amazing. You can tell people that are very passionate about what they do. I found it interesting that they're trying to get his dad to retire, because, if you really love what you're doing, it doesn't seem like you would want to retire, right? But he may have other reasons. You're an Animal says, the thing with cancer is I see it as a beneficial problem where we have to understand the toxic environment is analogous to arsenic exposure therapy. Well, yeah, I mean, cancer is our body's natural response to a toxic environment, most definitely, and it's a lifestyle issue. It's a lifestyle and environment issue. Our mitochondria are simply telling the genes to create cells in a certain way based on the environment we're living in. It's that simple. And so the more toxic our environment becomes, the more cancer is going to be a natural response. And we've done a lot of shows on recall healing, and what people don't realize is the cancer itself, the tumor itself, is the body's healing. That's when the body's actually healing. The actual cause of the cancer was years and years of lifestyle before a tumor showed up. And so working with the body instead of trying to kill and destroy cancer makes the most sense. So it's really challenging for people who are in this mindset of fighting and killing and destroying and waging a war on cancer. In any war, there's going to be casualties, right? So we don't want casualties. We want cancer to do its job. And that is to wake us up, to change our lifestyle, and to become whole human beings again. And then when we do that, then the cancer will go away because it's there for a reason. And it's showing us everything that we're doing wrong within our lifestyle. Where you insert a poison to the body to elicit an immune response, then chelate it out, and to ride the beneficial metabolism boost. The same should then go for our toxic environment. Always detox so that we can leverage our immune system response that is consistent or constant. Yeah. Unfortunately, in today's world, it's so important. Like, you can't live in today's world in a modern city or a modern sort of era and not detox. I mean, it's got to be part of what we do. And so detoxification every single day has to be a part of all of our our protocols. We have to do it because we didn't ask for 5G. We didn't ask for chemicals and blue light and frequencies and toxic compounds and glyphosates. We didn't ask for any of this stuff. But if we just live the standard life, then we're going to get the standard results. And the standard results are 1 out of every 2 people after the year born after 1960 being diagnosed with cancer. I mean, that's 50%. So, in 1900 or in the late 1890s, colon cancer, of all the types of cancer, was 1 out of every 37 types of cancer. Now it's 1 out of every 2 colon cancer. So our genetic expression, our genome, our DNA hasn't changed in 100 years. What's changed? Our environment and how we're living and our exposures to toxins. So what's more important than food is there are so many things way more important than food, like detoxification, like light, like electromagnetic field radiation, like how we think and our environment. All of these things are way more important than food. And so I like what Yarrow was saying is, like, whenever you eat something bad or that's quote bad, just don't beat yourself up for it. It's okay. It's okay. You can do that. It's just the overall balance of your life. If you want optimal health, has to be leaning towards detoxification, cleansing, doing the work that you love in the world, helping people, having energy, these types of things, So when you're in alignment with all of that, having a piece of pizza every now and then is not gonna do anything to you, especially if you have your mind right about it. Like I was saying in the show, it's so interesting to me that, people can have enough mind over matter to walk over hot coals. And I understand the hot coals aren't as hot as we think they are because they're not, it's used with charcoal tablets and all this stuff. But the fact remains is that it's really hot, and mind over matter does exist, and we could use that to our advantage when trying to walk over hot coals. But somehow when we eat a piece of pizza, we think that thing is going to kill us, and so the human brain and the human mind and the human nervous system and soul and spirit is so strong that no piece of pizza is ever going to do anything to us unless we think that it will. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Our thoughts and how we think about things. We are poisoned anyway, so we must complete the force therapy of source ourselves. Yeah, we are being poisoned. And that's why I'm a big fan of like our Relax Far Infrared Sauna, the Bellicon Rebounder, cleaning up the toxins in your life. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out, I want to tell you guys about the Stockton Aloe One. A lot of you guys have been purchasing it, and I'm really happy about that because aloe vera is just an incredible. It's probably the number one superfood in the world, in my opinion. And it contains so many different polysaccharides, long-chain sugars, minerals, enzymes, amino acids, 75 different compounds with aloe vera, and it helps to heal the gut. It's anti-inflammatory, it's anti-tumor, it's fungal. I mean, this stuff it's antiviral. It's so powerful. The best way to get aloe is fresh, but if you can't get it fresh, I haven't found any other aloe vera yet that is just aloe vera. Go to your health food store and look at the other ingredients inside the aloe vera, and it's not good. All of the other ingredients. These people, Stockton Aloe One, it's just the aloe, and they hand harvest it, and they flash freeze it. They ship it to you. They don't even ship on weekends, and so all you got to do is just pour a little bit off and defrost it, and you can take like a therapeutic amount, 2 to 4 ounces every day. Incredible for your gut, incredible for your digestion, and having that really soothing gel go through your entire digestive tract is one of the reasons why Rodney Stockton, who is the owner of the company, attributed drinking daily, or the daily consumption of aloe vera, as to why he lived till he was 96 years old. So aloe vera, I highly recommend everyone get on it. I mean, look at this stuff. Look at that. I mean, that's just medicine right there, right? Look at that clear gel. It's just pure medicine. And if you buy through our link, they'll send you some face cream that has aloe vera in it as well. So it comes to you in these like tubs, these half-gallon tubs. That's a gallon tub. And then this one is the actual half-gallon. You buy 2 of those, and it'll last you a long time, depending on how often you drink it and how much you drink. But this aloe vera is just, man, I'm over the moon about this stuff. It's really great. And then also, we're talking in the show a lot about like grounding and chi and that kind of thing. And that's why I'm really a big fan of Qigong. We had Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar on the show a while back. And Qigong is really, it's a moving meditation. So it's incredibly beneficial. And sometimes I actually prefer that versus regular meditation, because there's something about envisioning that golden ball of healing light in an orb and working with that energy and bringing that into your body. And there's something really powerful about it when you do the moving meditation. If you go through the whole program, you get to the point where you're doing 2 10-minute sessions, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. And you talk about a way of grounding your spirit and centering your life force energy, your chi, as the Chinese call it, and grounding yourself to the earth and bringing this moving meditation into your life. I'm telling you guys, it's profound. And to even do, ramp it up, you could do this while sun gazing in the morning, getting that morning frequency, that UV light into your eyes, and working with the energy of the Qigong while you're grounded, getting full spectrum biophotons from the sun. I mean, talk about a uniquely spiritual and powerful practice that you could do for 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. It's really great. So I highly recommend it. So go over to extremehealthradio.com and click on the store, and then you'll be taken to our store, and you can scroll down for the Qigong course as well as the Stockton Aloe One, which I'd highly recommend you guys check out. Anything else going on here in the chat room? Susan says horrible cancer rates. I know, right? Horrible. Yeah. It is what it is, right? I mean, those are horrible rates, but we have the power to heal, and the power to heal is within us. And once we stop giving away our power and start really taking control of our health, that's when our life changes. So I think it's incredible for us to take responsibility for our health and everything that we're doing. Cindy says, is there a replay of this? Yeah, the replay will be available on the Extreme Health Radio YouTube channel, so you can check that out if you guys want to check it out. And it will be available probably within about an hour. I think it takes YouTube a little bit of time to process the video, or whatever they have to do, whatever the mucky mucks over at Google have to do to the video. Yeah, let's see. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I'm going to head out and go help my wife Kate with the little bambinos. Let's see here. I want to show you guys a picture of our little Will the other day. It was so cute. Oh yeah, here's a picture of the cell tower I wanted to show you guys. If you follow us on Instagram, you can see this is the I was out working out the other day in my garage, and a bunch of concerned citizens, moms, basically walked by handing out these flyers, basically about the 5G and this huge big tower. But I wanted to show you our little guy Will. This is so cute. I get to go home to him and my wife Kate. How cool is that? Look at that little guy. Such a good kid. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your support. Thank you guys for everything that you guys do for us and joining the Academy. Oh, I wanted to tell you, the Extreme Health Academy. We just released yesterday Dr. Bergman's course on heart health. So that's now available inside the Extreme Health Academy. If you guys want to join the Academy and get access to that full heart health optimization course that Dr. Bergman just released yesterday, go to extremehealthacademy.com and enter in the code EHR14, and that will give you a free 14-day trial, and then you can get access to all of the things that we're doing inside the Extreme Health Academy. I'm telling you guys, if you want to upgrade your health and really, really dial in a lot of the concepts that we talk about on today's show and in Extreme Health Radio, got to join the Extreme Health Academy. I'm telling you guys, it's I'm really proud of that place, and I'm in there every day in the forums helping people. It's just really a tremendous place, and yeah, I'm just really excited about it. So go to extremehealthacademy.com, sign up, and enter in the code EHR14, and that will give you your free 14-day trial. All right, guys, we love you so much. Thank you again for joining us. Come join us again on Friday, 10:45, and we're going to talk with the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon Amalani, and we'll be talking with him about EMF mitigation. How do we protect our homes? How do we protect ourselves from 5G, from wireless technology? All these things, how do we do it? There's a lot of different strategies we know about, and we'll be sharing. So check out that show Friday morning, 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, and you can join and ask questions. All right, guys, we love you so much, and we'll talk to you guys on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse